You can see we already removed this panel here, but there's a trim piece right on the front here that just clips off like that. And you can pretty much lay that down, and then you're going to see screws here, and then also around the back that behind the trim pieces that allows you access to loosen this panel here. I don't think you need to take that panel off to access anything at this point, but I am going to show you some of the things that are behind that panel and also around the back side of the machine, so you can really familiarize yourself with the machine. This here you can drop down, and you've probably already done that, but we're going to go a step further and we're going to remove the top panel. Now, to remove the top panel, there's actually some screws in behind here that just need to be loosened up. And it takes an Allen wrench, and I would suggest probably getting a whole set of Allen wrenches so you have everything you need to loosen some of these screws. And then there's one right up behind here. I have mine loose right now, and there is a possibility the ones on your machine might be loose enough to actually remove the panel. But you have to grab a hold of it, and you got to be careful because this is glass on here, and if you drop it, it will break and shatter. So you can lift that whole panel right off of there, and I'm setting it over to the side. And I'm also going to open this up too, to really just open the machine all up. But that really exposes a lot of everything inside here. And you can see down here, this is camera 1, and then when you look up in here, you got camera 2 and camera 3 right up here. And then of course you got the spinning disc, Yokogawa spinning disc here. You shouldn't ever have to do anything with that. And I did tell you that I was going to explain how to align the cameras. We're going to do that in a little bit, but first we're going to walk around the machine. We're going to also show you how to hook up the UV light source first. I'm going to also come over here, and I've got this open, and this one's a fairly easy panel. We're just going to wiggle the hinges. You can see it's actually hinged right here, and you can just lift up on this. And then that pops off the hinges. Just like that. I'm going to lay that aside. Now we're back over to this panel here, and the reason I want to remove this panel because it'll reveal the computer inside. And again, you have all your trim pieces here that just pop off like that, and you have the back trim piece does the exact same thing, just pops off like that. I'm going to just set that down here. And again, we've exposed the Allen bolts here and here, and that's the only ones that's really holding this top panel on. I've got mine loose already, and you just have to loosen them up, and then that just pops off of here like this. There is a ground wire on this one, which I've already taken off, and I'm going to lay this one down to the side too. Again, these panels shouldn't all have to come off for what you're doing, but I just want to go through everything. I've already removed the back panels. They do the exact same thing. They clip in. They have screws here, here, and here. Those can all be loosened, and all the panels just pop right off. But over here you have the computer to the system. If you ever need to access anything in the computer, plug anything in, you can kind of pull the computer out a little bit here and wiggle it out here. And you can just see all the cabling in here. You got all your camera cards right in here. And then you also have all your connections back here. And then this particular cable up here is actually your UV light source control cable. And that's the one that I want to make sure you know how to hook that up. It's hooked up already on the computer. It's all ready to go there, so again, you shouldn't have to do anything on the computer. Now I've also opened up the back panel here because I've got our UV source already down here inside the machine. That's a good place to keep it. You just got to power it up. You do have an access hole up on the corner here. You can run your power cord in there and out that. And same thing with your Cat 5 cable that will communicate with the machine. You can plug it in the back here and then run it out the access hole up here in this corner here. And then when we get around the front again, I'm going to show you how to hook the fiber optic cable up. Now, in here is all your lasers. You got a laser here, over here, down here, here, and this one actually is missing one laser. Like I said, this is a 2010 that I'm actually working on right now. So we're replacing this laser here. But I'm just going to open up the panel here so you can see behind this. Now you shouldn't ever have to do much back here, but all you have is all your mirrors and all your alignments so that all the lasers can combine through here, and then it all comes down to this last mirror right here, and it comes out through here, and it travels through this fiber optic cable here, and then that fiber optic cable runs around to the front of the machine, which I'm going to be showing you here as we walk around. I'm going to put this back on. Again, I've got most of the screws off, so I'm just putting one here to temporarily hold this on. And again, all the lasers here. We're walking around here. Just a quick point out, this is the fiber optic cable that's running around the back from the lasers, very small, but this is all your light source from the lasers. It's curled around here, and then it runs right into the Yokogawa spinning disc right here. So you really shouldn't ever have to do anything with that. Biggest thing is make sure that the fiber optic cable never gets kinked or damaged. So it needs to stay somewhat, have a nice curvatures running in it. But that's your laser source, that's your main laser source there. Now we're going to talk about the UV lamp. And down here is the UV lamp. I've got it plugged in already. I've got the fiber optic cable somewhat ran. I just ran it up to inside the access hole from up above to down here. Now on the end of this fiber optic cable, you're going to notice it has some caps on it. Again, you're going to need a very small Allen wrench. You can remove those, and then you can just take the cap off. I've already got it loose. So again, this is a fiber optic cable, so you got to be careful not to kink it, because once you kink it, it's ruined. So just nice curves, running it around here. I'm going to insert the end straight in there, and then tighten up the black finger nut here, just so it stays. And you can just kind of push this up there. This helps keep the nice curvature. And then you have your power here. You can turn it on, which we'll do after a bit. What I want to do now is we're moving up to the top. I did run the cable, again, out from the corner. I've got it here. So it's running out the access hole there. Now, the thing of it is we got to feed this cable into the machine, and I'm going to show you exactly where it goes and has to be fed through. Probably the biggest the hardest part about this is actually the UV fiber port that they've got for running the cable in. To do it, you possibly could probably feed it in without opening this up. I've done it, but if you feel like that it's too hard, then what you have to do is you have to remove this screw and a screw here, and then this door actually opens up here. So I'm going to actually go ahead and open the door for you just to show you. I already got one screw out, so I'm trying to speed this up just for sake of time. But so it's, again, an Allen wrench, all metric. So now we've got access to the inside. And while we're in here, I want to just show you really what this is. This is the power source for all the components, and everything is in here. So if something stops or fails to work, it's a possibility it just needs a fuse changed. So there's probably about 15 different fuses that range from 1 up to about 7.5 amps. And there's a batch here, here, and one back here. But that's the first place to look if you're having an issue with something that just stopped working completely. And changing a fuse out, very simple there. But again, you have to gain access. You have to remove this side panel, remove the 2 screws, and open the door. But what this is doing for me now, it's allowing me to feed my fiber optic cable in through here. Again, be careful not to kink this. But we're just going to feed this right through this hole. And if you can see, I'm moving it up beside that camera up there. It's right on the back side of the camera. So I can walk around the front now, and I'm going to just go around front, and I'm going to pull from up here, and we're reaching back, grabbing it, and I'm kind of feeding it in here like this. And now I want to attach this to this stem here. So I'm gonna turn it backwards a couple turns just so I can just screw it on there. Now I can't remember exactly, your conduit perhaps already has a nice fitting. It almost seems like your conduit screws on a little nicer than this one, so you'll just have to look at it again. This one here is, I believe, a little bit different. But now we've got the conduit hooked in. And while we got this door open right here, there is a possibility, if I remember right, this is actually the UV light source that needs to connect down to turn the light source on and off. And I believe what I did is, because this is your internet access line, I believe I actually just unplugged this, and I plugged this into the internet access line so that you can actually just plug the UV light source into that. If you need to gain access to the internet, which I probably recommend not to, because Windows 7 is no longer supported, and you want to avoid getting any viruses on the computer. So if you just want to network it, that's fine. You can use it for that, but I strongly recommend not hooking it to the internet. That's one reason I unhooked the networking cable here and plugged in the UV light source cable. So anyways, if you want to, you can just run it out like this one is. Run out this hole and hook your networking cable back up here. That's up to you, but I just thought I would point that out. So we've got that run in there. I'm just leaving this hang out for now, and you can put the screws back in because we've got the fiber optic line ran inside now. So we'll come around here, and this is where we got to feed it. Now we're going to look up in here, and you can see this is the hole that we're going to run the fiber optic cable in. It's got to just go up here. And there's also little thumb screws that hold it in position after you get it inserted. Now it makes it easier because I obviously have this other panel off, but you really don't need to take this other panel off. You're just going to run it in here and insert it into there and push it in. Make sure your screws are all loose enough. And then you can just tighten the screws up, which again, it's a little easier for me because I have the panel off on the side here. So once you get the screws tightened up, it'll stay there fine. Shouldn't have any issues with that, and that hooks that up. I'm just going to leave that unhooked for now though, because I am working on this machine. So that hooks up your fiber optic cable that you can look at the UV light through the fourth camera back here. I might just point out where the fourth camera is while this side panel's off. The camera that you're going to use to view the UV light source is right back here. It's a very small camera, but it's camera number 4, so I thought I'd just point that out. And while we're here, I'm just going to open up the, this is the slide filters for the UV. So you have 2 of them. You have the excitation, and I forget what the other one is. But these are all controlled through the software, which I'll show you on the next video. So a lot to these machines, but like I said, they're very easy to access everything. I have multiple machines like this for parts. If you do run into a problem, we perhaps can help you out on that. So our UV light source is hooked up. The UV light source is on down there. I'm also going to point out while everything is open too, I told you how to adjust the cameras. Now on yours, you're going to have a bracket that's coming up, and it's actually bolted to the top of your camera here. This one has been taken off because I've been doing some work on it. But your adjustments for your X and Y adjustments are these very fine-tuned micrometer knobs here. But you do have to loosen the camera before you can make these adjustments. Now what I did is I would align camera 2, which is up here, and camera 1. I would align it with camera 3. And because the reason I do that is because it's so hard to access camera 3 that it's better to leave it where it's at and then just align camera 2 and camera 1 to match camera 3. And after we get the software turned on and booted up, we're going to take a look at the cameras, and we're going to show you a little bit how to align those and be able to keep the cameras aligned. But there's a good chance that you don't even need to do that either. It should have probably stayed fine. The software does take into account a little bit. If they're off just a little bit, the software does actually match them up pretty good anyways. But anyways, that's about it on the, well, no, I'm sorry, I was going to show you what you got to do to make the adjustments. Here you can see right up in here, there's some Hexagon bolts. There's actually 4 of them. There's 1, 2, 3, and then 1 clear in the back where it's hard to get to. If you want to, you can get a wrench. I can't remember the size of this either, I'm sorry, but I'll get that for you. You have to loosen these enough to where you can make the adjustments on these fine-tuned micrometers that are built into the adjustment. But like I said, there's 4 of those bolts that loosens and allows the camera to slide. And same thing up here. This one's just turned up on end. You have 4 bolts, 1 up here, 1 here, and 2 in the back. And you'll definitely need to take the top panel off to access those. But again, you might not have to do any of that. I got it before we shipped it out. I had them aligned really well, so I'm hoping that those are doing fine. I'll show you how to check the alignment and to look at that too. But anyways, that's where you would do it right here. Just need that wrench to loosen them. You can do your XY adjustments, and then you do an overlay on camera 3, and you can align it to camera 3 accordingly. But yeah, very nice machines, very accessible. This is your pumps for your water immersion lenses, which is controlled in the software. I flushed yours all out. It should be good to go. You have your water immersion lenses installed, and you can select that from the software also. But we're going to get the machine turned on, and I'll be back in a little bit. All right, we're back to the Opera again. We've turned on the software and got it fired up. I know I've talked to you on Friday night through an email, and you said you were having trouble calibrating the lasers. And I kind of want to address that right away because I feel like that's probably the most important. I'm going to point out some of the things on the machine, what to look for first. The first thing that I would recommend if we're not getting any calibration, any good calibrations, is just to make sure that the reader is actually picking up the laser light. So I'm going to probably have to have, you're going to probably have to remove this panel like I got it here. And I'll lift up this lid here. Also, you can see I've got my Opera adjustment plate in here ready to go because I want to show you a little bit there. I'm just using an air lens here. But if you lift up the plate or lift up the lid, there's a bolt here, and then there's one around on this corner over here too. And then again down here, there's a couple that you can just loosen, and then the whole side corner will just pull right out of there, and that'll open up this whole thing here. And then once you got that off, you're going to see this protective cover right here, and it's just magnetically held on there, and you can just actually pull that right off like that. It just has some magnets here and some magnets over here, and that opens this up down here, and we're going to bring the camera down in here. I'm going to bring you over around clear up to here, if you can get that shot. And what you're seeing right there is that's the actual power meter that's recording the laser power. If that light isn't striking the center of that reader, you're going to get obscured readings. And that's the very first thing you need to check, because if that's not lined up with the laser, what happens is the laser comes through the Yokogawa, and it comes through here. I'm going to put my hand right here so you can see the laser when it strikes my finger over here. You can see that the laser's coming through right here. It's hitting, it's bouncing off the mirror and going upwards into our subject, and also it's passing through into the meter, and that's what's actually reading it while it's being calibrated. If that's not lined up, then you'll get some really poor readings. But if you could check that first, and also while we're in here, if you do need to adjust any of your light sources, or any of your laser light sources up into the subject, you have 3 adjustment knobs back here, and that will tilt that mirror so that you can make good alignments up into your subject. And that's an easy fix there. Most generally, those don't need to be adjusted too much. And then also, while we're here, this laser here is your autofocus laser. It's powered right here. It actually has a key that turns it on and off, which it stays on all the time. What it does is it runs through a fiber optic cable through here. It goes through a splitter and to a reader over here. But this is also something that could need some adjusting if this laser is not shooting into your subject as well. So you have 2 adjustment screws here for this, and also you have some X and Y adjustment screws, one here and one here. And when your machine went out, I believe it was actually focused really well. But I've been kind of tweaking on this machine. Like I said, this one's actually missing a laser, but the other 2 lasers right now are working fine. But I'm going to also take you around back. I've got the laser cabinet door open, and we're going to go around back here. So right now, I've got all the lasers on. I've got I believe the red laser's actually turned on now. But if you ever do need to adjust any of the lasers, like this, the red one here, you have 2 adjustment knobs here. It comes down and it bounces across here to this mirror, and you also have 2 adjustment knobs here. Those will help centralize the laser going into the fiber optic cable down here. Each laser has its own adjustments. Same thing with the blue laser. It has, again, 2 here, and then down here it comes in, It passes through here and then down here. And then, oh yeah, the violet laser over here, again, you got 2 adjustments here and two of them here. So a lot of adjustments that you can self-tweak if you need to, but I know the lasers were working good on the machine, so it's probably just a matter of some alignment. And first thing I said, like, the check is the actual reader meter inside there. Make sure that laser is hitting dead on, right on that meter. But like I said, we have our Opera adjustment plate in there. We're just going to look at some of the beads in there and kind of show you. I wanted to show you how to line the cameras also. And I think we talked about a little bit the 3 main cameras up here. What we always want to do is try to align the number 2 camera and the number 1 camera up to number 3. Number 3 is the hardest to get to, so we like to just leave it where it's at. I went ahead and got the 4mm wrench, or I'm sorry, 7mm wrench, and I unloosened the 4 screws that keep the camera secure. Those 4 have to be loosened up so that you can actually use the micrometers to move the camera where you need it. So we're going to move over to the software now, and right now I've got I went ahead and auto-focused it, but I'll just move the table over here, and we're going to go to camera 3. Go ahead and auto-focus it, bring it in. So right now we're auto-focused on camera 3, but what I want to do is I want to align camera 2 and camera 1 with camera 3. So the way I do that is I'm going to come to this button. It's called an overlay button. It's for overlaying the colors. And it'll pop up, and you can choose what camera and what colors you want overlaid what. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick camera number 3, because that's the camera that I want to keep where it's at. And then I'm going to overlay it with camera number 2. And that's the first camera I'm going to start with. So then I click OK. Now what you're seeing here is you're seeing 2 different cameras. The camera number 3, I believe, is the green, and camera number 2 is the red. You can see they're not lined up. So what we got 3 colonies here that need to be just simply moved. These need to be moved down in position, and you can see they're just not lining up there. So now I'm going to move over here, and I'm going to start tweaking these. Yep, I forgot I gotta switch to camera number 2 here. There we go. So I'm on camera number 2, and I actually tweaked it and moved it a little closer here. But I'm going to sneak back over here, and I'm going to make the adjustments. I'm going to have you get a screenshot so you can actually see while I'm moving over here. So when I'm moving the camera, you can see how that's aligning them there. So now what I can also do is I can zoom in on one of these colonies here. We're going to just zoom right in. Now you can really see how we're overlaid right here. Now I'm going to adjust the other one and go to the y-axis, and you can see how it just a little bit, oh, I'm going the wrong way there, so okay, whoa, too far, and come back. All right. It's very, very sensitive. That's why they built in these micrometers to really adjust these. Okay, we're right over top there. I mean, it is about dead on there. Okay, so now camera 2 essentially is lined up with camera 3. You can see it's laying over really good. And what we're looking for is the right in the center of the screen. On the outside edges, you're going to still have a little bit of a few of the colonies that are off, but right in the center And see, we're still off a little bit. I'm going to adjust that just a little bit more. Bring it on down there. Okay. That looks really, really close. Click back in. Now we're looking really good there. So now what I can do is I can go ahead and tighten down the bolts on camera 2 because it's now aligned with camera 3. And I would do this very same thing for camera number 1. So again, we're going to do an overlay. We're going to take camera number 3 again. And we're going to overlay camera number 1 over camera number 3. And we're going to go to camera number 1 here. Go back here. And we're going to do the very same thing. And you can see it's really close. And I never actually unloosened the bolts yet, so I'm going to quick do that. And now we're able to make our adjustments. And like again, I'm just adjusting the X and Y axes here to get the alignment. Bringing it over here. Okay, I'm going to again zoom in on one of the colonies, on one of the beads, I mean. I keep calling them colonies, beads. All right, now again we're lining camera number 1 with camera number 3. And we'll also take a look at camera number 2 also, because they should, both of those should align again then too. That looks pretty good. Try to look at this one a little bit. Ooh, too much. Very sensitive. Okay. Right, there we go. So I'm going to create another overlay here. We're going to go camera number 3, or no, I'm sorry, camera number 2 and camera number 1. And I'm going to actually be viewing you can also see now that camera 1 and 2 are also aligned here. So now we got everything lined up, looking real good there. And that's basically how you line the cameras. Now I just go ahead and tighten the bolts on those, and those would be good to go. Again, on the software here, our 2 lasers that we're using, you know, both calibrated good, but I know you're pretty much found your way around the software now, but one thing I want to also show you when you're calibrating the lasers, if you like right now, we'll go ahead and just go ahead and calibrate this one. And I want to come over here and show you up in here again. You should be able to look up in here where we were at a little bit ago and see the laser being calibrated here. And it will be bright and then it'll go dim, and it's basically just calibrating the laser. And now it's adjusting filters. But that's how you can tell if a laser's coming through and getting good readings. And it's calibrated, so we're going to look at over here. We got a really good reading on the calibrations. We had a peak, and then we had a nice downflow, and we did the same thing for this one. I calibrated this one. These 2 lasers on this machine here aren't coming through. One laser's actually missing, and the other one I have to do some adjustments on yet. So, but anyways, that's pretty much it. I know there's a lot to these machines, but if you're willing to pull some panels and get your hands under the hood, you can learn a lot about these machines. We've got spare parts, we've got spare lasers, so hopefully this helps you out, and you can get your machine up and going soon.